Hello, my name is Nicole Holland, and I will be presenting on my interview with Erin Empey on the topic of nutrition genomics. First, a little background information about Erin, who I interviewed. Erin is a personal trainer, so she does have quite a great foundation of background information on nutrition and health topics and is quite interested in this topic as well. So to begin with a summary of the interview, the initial question I asked was describe what you know about nutritional genomics. And Erin's answer was, I know nothing. She did not know what this term implied. She did have kind of a vague understanding of nutrition genomics, but not in regards to the scientific application of it. After Erin's initial answer, I showed her a brief explanation from one of this week's readings called Genomics and Personalized Nutrition, Can You Eat for Your Genes? And the really brief explanation that they give is that nutrition genomics is receiving individual dietary advice based on a person's biology. So in my summary of Erin's interview, the first question I asked was, describe how you see nutrition genomics as relevant to your health and nutrition status. Erin stated that her family had a history of hypertension and high blood pressure, so maybe understanding these risks would help her to know what dietary choices to make to reduce the possible risk from being genetically predisposed to these conditions. We then watched the short video clip that was provided about genomics. And after watching the video, I asked her to describe her thoughts on whether or not she would be interested in nutritional genomic testing if the price was right. Erin said that there was interest there, but did express a concern over the price and said that there was some hesitation after watching this particular video that there would be really any clinical validity to it, or if it just felt more like a multi-level marketing scheme or a quick money-making scheme. The next question I posed to Erin was, what do you see as personal benefit to nutritional genomic testing? Erin expressed interest in understanding her individual nutrition needs, and her exact quotation was, I would be interested to know how my genetics can be impacted by my nutritional choices and vice versa. So understanding how certain lifestyle choices may impact overall health. Then I asked, what do you see as a personal risk or any ethical concerns to nutritional genomic testing? On this particular question, I did have to give a little bit of background information as to some ethical concerns that maybe arise. I read to her some of the reading this week that expressed ethical concerns in terms of socioeconomic status and ethnic minorities that might be underrepresented. Erin also expressed concerns over the psychological impact that testing could potentially have on a person if data was misinterpreted. In her exact words, she said a rabbit hole of like food aversions or any sort of negative health impact. Like her example she gave was if someone found they were more predisposed to diabetes, would that then lead them to completely avoid carbohydrates, and what sort of health implications could that then have? Then we asked, what additional information would you want to know before getting tested? Erin did express some concern about the validity of the test. She stated, how can I know that what is being advertised is actually tested? There was some concern about the possible false representation of results. She used the example of like a COVID test, like how do you know if it's a false positive or false negative, and if that information is actually valid once we get those results back. And then assuming you got tested, how would you respond if you found out that you would need to completely change your diet to improve your health and reduce your risk of disease? This answer I thought was interesting. Erin stated that she personally felt like it would impact her choices if she found that she was at higher risk for a condition that could be impacted through nutrition, but then stated that it would also depend on the person. If someone is already more inclined to making healthy lifestyle or changes and behavior changes, they're more likely to take these results and implicate behavior change. Whereas if someone is less motivated in that regard, it's not likely to impact any of their overall behaviors. She pointed out that regardless of results, there also still is that gap of knowing or knowledge and then behavior change that would have to be understood. Erin's final response about thoughts around nutritional genomics and nutritional genomic testing after watching this video and understanding a little bit more background. She stated that it's interesting and that science is definitely advancing. It's interesting that science can predict what benefits a person can have from nutritional choices, and that if it was affordable, it might be worth a shot for most people if they have a good foundational knowledge about how to interpret the results and if you could actually have valid and clinically significant results given back to you. Um, Another interesting point that Erin brought up is that it could be a first step along with other multidisciplinary actions, right? From clinicians or working with a dietitian or our personal trainer. Awareness would be the first step to any sort of behavior change, and genetic testing or nutritional genomic testing could provide that awareness to initiate the behavior change in the right individual. My observations. It was interesting to see Erin go from no understanding or a vague understanding to showing interest and understanding of how this could actually be applied in a real world setting. Like I said, Erin does have a strong background in health related topics, so she does have some knowledge and understanding of how one could interpret results from nutrition genomic testing and actually apply those in a behavioral setting. Overall, my observation was Erin would be a good prospective candidate. I think a big part of nutrition genomic testing would be having individuals understand what is being tested, how it would be relevant, and how it could apply in an outside setting, like how to actually interpret the results and initiate behavior change. It was interesting to reflect on the consumer knowledge and perception. It was apparent in my interview with Erin that there was some hesitation about the validity, especially after watching the video. She sensed that it was sales pitchy. It was seemed like a scheme in some ways, and there was definitely some hesitation about the validity of it or whether or not it would actually be worth the money in testing. I do believe that there is a lack of knowledge out there about nutritional genomics and how those could apply or what that actually means in a real world setting. The reflections on what I learned. Prior to this course this week, I had a very vague knowledge base of what that entailed. I understood that you could get personalized nutrition testing, but I didn't really know the name or what that application could be. Some of the prospective benefits that I see are tailored nutrition needs for people that are motivated or people that understand how to apply those results. But I definitely see that there's also some negative implications as far as psychological outcomes if you're tested and have a predisposition for diseases that couldn't be cured. Is that something that we want to be aware of or know of if there's nothing that we can necessarily do about that? Also, the cost and validity of such testing would be a concern as well. Is it going to be accessible to general population, or is this something that would just be accessible to higher socioeconomic status? And then as far as validity, how do we know once we get those results back that they are accurate and that they are actually relevant to the nutritional prescriptions that we would be giving to clients? My final takeaways are I can see the possible benefits. In a clinical setting, I do think there needs to be some education of practitioners about how to incorporate this in a multidisciplinary setting, like I mentioned with a dietitian, but also with physicians and exercise physiologists, all different aspects of how not only our nutrition can affect our genes, but then also our lifestyle factors like exercise, sleep, stress regulation, understanding that it's not a final answer, but it could be used to raise awareness and then also implicated with other aspects to increase possible lifestyle modifications in regards to disease risk and status. Thank you for your time.